The Master Phil in Your Corner podcast is brought to you by philross.com, the home site of Master Phil Industries, books, presentations, virtual training, supplements, and products, including the Back Better Bar, strengthen your back and bulletproof your shoulders. The Body Bell Method, the world's only kettlebell, bodyweight, and dynamic tension system, providing continuing education credits for trainers, coaches, doctors of physical therapy, and chiropractors. Be sure to check out our new app, Masterfill Kettlebells, on the App Store. Thank you for your patronage. Greetings and welcome to another episode of Master Phil in Your Corner. This is episode number 161, and we're going to be talking about our feet. How do we make our feet healthy? And we have an incredibly talented and special guest today. We have Dr. Emily Spichal, and I think I'm saying her last name correctly.
Yes.
Yes, she's a podiatrist and a human movement specialist. Is that it? Excellent.
Yep.
Emily, you're doing great stuff. We've known each other for quite a few years, definitely over a decade. But this is the first time ever here on the show. So tell everyone about yourself and what you're doing and how you can help them, because you help a lot of people online. I see it all the time.
Yes. Well, one, thank you for having me on. And yes, long overdue. So I am a functional podiatrist, as you said, human movement specialist. I have been educating about the power of the feet from a sensory perspective and from an integrated perspective for over a decade. I look at feet very differently from traditional podiatry, where I actually get my patients out of their shoes, orthotics, all of that support, teaching them how to access the natural function of our feet. I certify and educate professionals around the world about feet. And then I am the CEO and founder of Naboso, which is a sensory-based product line to help people really access and tap into that sensory side of the foot. So you can tell I love sensory and the nervous system and brain and fascia. All of that is my passion.
Well, that's incredible because, this all ties in with proprioception, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have no idea. When I say proprioception to them, they look at me like I have three heads. So maybe if you and how important the feet are to proprioception and your balance and your body awareness and blah, 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 blah. So if you could maybe educate people on that a little bit.
Sure. So proprioception is one of your senses. We actually have four main sensory input systems that help us control our movement. I will share all of them because it helps understand proprioception. But we have our eyes, our ears, our joints, and then our skin. So it's visual, vestibular, proprioceptive, and then mechanoceptive, which is touch. Proprioceptive and proprioceptive awareness, when I teach people about it, is really joint specific, is where I think it helps people understand it first. Is all of our joints are surrounded by nerves, nerve endings that are stretched every time we shift our body, we breathe, actually sways our body. Any stimulus to our system is stimulating these joint receptors, which then tells our brain and body where the joint, but we are in space. Now, I will add that this is a little bit different than mechanoception, which is touch, and oftentimes those get interchanged.
Mhm.
So a mechanoceptive or touch awareness is really bottom of the feet, palm of the hand, where proprioceptive awareness would be, again, joint, but compression. Things like weighted blankets, weighted vests, wrist weights, all of that is proprioceptive. Texture's mechanoceptive, vibration is mechanoceptive. They all feed together to build body and positional awareness.
And that's essential to our movement patterns and being able to maintain our balance. And as we know, as we age, the number one cause of death of the elderly is either a fall or the result of a fall.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I often tell people that the only way, I mean, to be extreme, but the only way or the best way, number one way to control your body and movement is to know where you are in space. To me, that's your step one. If I don't know where this physical canister is in space, how do I move it well? How do I control it? How do I not fall if
Mhm.
I don't know where it is? That is why I always look at perception,
Mhm.
proprioceptive awareness, sensory awareness, perception of self, or really it's called body schema. Body schema is your mind's mental picture of where you are in space. If you do not train that mental muscle or that skill over time and with age, it gets weaker, slower, and less accurate. Therefore, we see falls.
Yeah, yeah, it degrades over time, like
Mhm.
everything. And the thing is that people are not aware of this, and they're probably not even aware of the degradation until maybe it's too late, and then they've already had a
Mhm.
fall, and now they've gotten injured, and now they're in a recovery situation, and obviously, they're not progressing. Um, you know, I have a funny thing with feet. um, Not like that, but I was a pretty competitive martial artist and kickboxer and so forth. And your feet get pretty beat up. I,
Yeah.
I I remember having one particularly tough bout where I kicked this guy's elbows. I don't know. I don't even know how many times. My feet were swollen. I can only wear flip-flops for 4 days. I couldn't put my feet in shoes. They were just
Yeah.
beat the snot. Um, you do wind up with getting injuries, suffering that type of trauma. So what did I do? I went to the podiatrist. What did the podiatrist do? Why don't you tell me what you think the podiatrist did? They said I needed.
My my guess is orthotics. My guess is
Yes.
orthotics,
Yep.
supportive shoes, and maybe an old school rice protocol. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's yes. I wound up getting. I got some injections. I got the orthotics. Blah 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 blah. It didn't get better.
Yeah.
I I never got better. And then I wound up. I really believe I was weakening my ankles because of all the support in my foot. So
Mhm.
I'm running in the woods, and I wind up twisting my ankle. I thought I just sprained it, so I'm like, I'm okay. And so I'm training. A couple weeks later, I guess it healed. And then I'm getting ready for a big kickboxing match, so I'm training. I jump in the air and I hit a spinning crescent kick. I pull it so it doesn't hit my partner in the head because it would have dropped him. And I hit the floor, and my foot hits the wrong way on the mat. So you have 190 pounds spinning, hitting. My foot stayed there, my body kept going. And it found that weak part and snap. My like foot came off. I broke my leg in three places, spiral fracture, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So after that, I was doing a lot of deep dive and saying, why did this happen? It shouldn't happen to me, and da 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 da. So I gave up the orthotics. I gave up all that stuff. I gave up the supportive shoes. I mean, now I mostly wear those hike footwear or barefoot or my wrestling shoes. Um,
Mhm.
when I go run on the trails, though, I tend to have some. I tried the real thin ones; it beat up my feet too much. I didn't feel good, so I had to use a little thicker one. But that's the only time I wear them. Other than that, I'm
Yeah.
like in contact with the ground and knock wood, 20, this was '02, this happened. So, 24 years later, I haven't had any issues. So, um, let's talk about
I,
what you would have done.
yeah. I was going to say that I've heard stories like that before,
Yeah.
where the traditional orthotic supportive shoe put yourself in a bubble approach theoretically creates more weakness and dependence on these modalities. And then if you
Yes.
do a barefoot method like martial arts, gymnastics, dance, whatever it might be, under high velocity and being very dynamic, that is where you can then definitely see some injuries because there's not a carryover on that. So absolutely, I'm not surprised that once you started to strip that away, you wake up your foot muscles, you wake up the nerves and the proprioceptive control and the mechanoceptive and the fascial connections between our feet and our hip. You have essentially better control
Mhm.
and a stronger, more stable foot structure that you have an awareness of where it is. So this, I see this all the time. This is why I take patients out of those.
Yeah.
I was not taught this in podiatry school. I was taught the traditional method. And then when I was shifting out of medical school into residency, so kind of the
Yes.
next phase of my training, is really when the barefoot running boom happened.
Yeah.
So there was then this sudden awareness and conversation about natural foot function.
Yeah.
And because that was not taught to me in podiatry school, even though I had a fitness background, I wanted to have another credential to really bring that expertise to that area. And that was my master's in human movement. So that I went back to school, got my master's in human movement during the initial barefoot running boom or the barefoot shoe boom. And I focused entirely on barefoot science. And that to this day, I attest it to being the glue between my fitness background, my medical degree, and then I have this master's in human movement, which
Mhm.
was the bridge. And
Yeah.
then it led to, a plethora of self-study and into fashion, breath work and stuff. But
Yeah, because you also seem to have a lot of empirical data and to pull from, right? From your experience. So by
yeah,
blending these two, and actually three, I would consider three, because you also have the real data. Look, I have my master's in science, in health science as well, which is incredible. I love it. It's great.
yep.
Helped with many, many things, plus my other studies. But it's putting the rubber to the road. What is really working? And then, so tell me, somebody comes in with bunions, okay, which are brutal. What do you? And again, I know that there's a whole wide range of bunions and how they can be affected
Yeah.
and so forth. But what is a typical protocol, and can they recover from that and not have that surgery that we know is not great?
Yeah. So let's see if I'm seeing someone for a bunion.
Mhm.
Part of my evaluation is going to be determining their foot type because foot type and any sort of really the most common foot type that is associated with bunions is a flexible flat foot.
Yeah.
So there is a ligament laxity slash hypermobility in the medial column and the structures that essentially stabilize how the bunion forms. And the way that a bunion forms is that we lose stability at what's called the cuneiform joint, metatarsal cuneiform joint. First
Mhm.
metatarsal is then able to swing out. Toe is staying this way. That's essentially the bunion bump. That hypermobility or instability is oftentimes driven from a lack of rear foot control, possibly insufficient ankle joint movement. Some of that is structural, some of it is functional, some of it's a compensation. I don't know. That's part of the evaluation. Then I always do a gait assessment on every single patient because I want to understand what is the dynamic function of the foot and the big toe during the gait cycle because that is our most functional movement that we're doing. I then explain to the patient why the big toe is so important to functional movement, to push off, how we absorb and release energy as human beings, as the basis of human movement, and why that range of motion and being able to put your foot into what's called a rigid lever is evolutionarily a critical part of human foot function, just so the patient understands this. Okay, we understand that. Do the rest of my assessment. I look at x-rays. I look to see, do they have arthritis, which is a structural change that is taking away their range of motion in their big toe. And then we essentially go into what are the solutions.
Mhm.
Um, excuse me, I will say that bunions are not reversible without surgery.
Okay.
So oftentimes I will say there are things that we can do to strengthen your foot function, meaning foot stability, foot strength.
Mhm.
We can use things like toe spacers to support natural toe alignment, but we cannot reverse that bunion.
Mm.
Because we cannot do that, that's fine though. In certain cases, our goal is to push pause. Do we push pause on the bunion, build good foot strength, finding what a neutral foot position feels like? Of course, connect this to the body. So just
Yeah.
for people who are thinking, but what about the glutes and the
Mhm.
rest of it? Every patient is connecting their feet to their pelvic floor, their diaphragm, to their tongue, and to their glutes. So we're creating a more proximal or pelvis top down
Hmm.
approach of how we connect to our foot. And then because I was trained as a surgeon, I explain the surgery to a patient. They do not get pushed into surgery, but I explain the role of surgery. Some of my patients do want to have surgery, and I take the time to really explain to them these are the procedures that are available. These are why I would suggest one procedure versus another.
Right.
Definitely do your due diligence when you seek out a surgeon. And then after the surgery, let's work together to optimize your foot function.
Wow. So it's definitely a whole process. Now, if someone, let's say, do bunions run in families?
So bunions are not genetic.
Okay.
That is, I think, important because to have a bunion is not on your DNA. It's not like a gene that says you have a bunion.
Mhm.
What is, though, is our connective tissue.
Okay.
So the laxity of our connective tissue, which often predisposes people, can start to then lead to the predisposition to form a bunion.
So if someone has like something like Ehlers-Danlos, yeah, that's ligament lax, like significant ligament laxity, right? Um,
Yep,
that would definitely
that is
affect it.
genetic.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
genetic. So what if you have a predisposition, maybe you have ligament laxity, and I think it's important to know that women generally suffer more from ligament laxity than men. Am I correct in that assessment or?
So in the foot, it's really unique that in the foot, we get a foot specific ligament laxity,
Hmm.
where also what runs in the genetics is the formation of the bones into what's called a calcaneal inclination, metatarsal declination. That's what gives us an arch.
Okay.
Some people genetically
Mhm.
have flatter structure, which means their
Yes.
calcaneal inclination is lower. This is part of a flat foot. It's a very specific type of a flat foot. You
Mhm.
will see this in certain um, genetic tracks, such as I see this a lot in Asia. I see this a lot in Africa.
Why?
So you can see it in different regions that there are regional foot types that then have a potential predisposition for certain pathology.
What are the different foot types? We're all
So there are three
okay.
main foot types:
Okay.
flat foot, neutral, high.
My name is Christine Conti, and I'm the CEO of Fit Fix Now. I love the Back Better Bar. It has helped me with mobility, flexibility, and just overall feeling great with my back and my posture. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Angelica, and I'm going to show you what the Back Better Bar does for you. I was in excruciating pain yesterday, and I went to Master Phil, and he just saved me. I couldn't even walk. I was in so much pain with these own exercises, and oh my gosh, I cannot tell you, I cannot recommend this enough. Go to his classes, go to his channels, and get better relief.
I use the Back Better Bar to support my posterior chain, my spine, and my shoulders. As a fitness professional, it's important for me to keep my back in a great position and alignment. Also, in my profession as a therapist, I'm sitting a lot. So in between sessions, I can take it, use it, and really open up my spine for better mobility, alignment, and flexibility.
Yes.
Okay. So of the different foot types, outside of neutral, the one that is the most common and the one where people put most of their focus is the flat foot.
Yes.
Now, when I look at a flat foot, the way that I start to break down a flat foot is actually have a flow chart of how I logically think about this.
Mhm.
Is you have a flat foot and it breaks down into initially, is it flexible or is it rigid? A
Mhm.
flexible flat foot is one that when you're sitting in a chair and you look at your foot, you see this beautiful arch. And then when you stand up in gravity, it goes,
Okay.
okay, that's flexible. A rigid is open chain, no body weight. You can see it's flat from across the room. Like it is just flat, flat. So of course, when you stand up in gravity and body weight, it's still flat.
Yeah.
So you have that one. When it comes to the flexible flat foot, you have two more ways that it can break down. It's either ligament laxity, which presents very classically in the midfoot,
Okay.
or it's muscle weakness. Muscle weakness is usually a little bit more rear foot, or it stays within what's called the subtalar joints or more the calcaneus as far as the flattening and the effect.
Okay.
That's initially how we can start to think of it. Of course, there's neutral when it comes to cavus or high arch. You have a global cavus. You have an anterior cavus, which kind of drops like this. You have a neurologically cavus foot, which is like it's really pulled in from spasticity of the muscles. But again, those are a little bit more complicated. When I teach professionals and travel around educating, I usually focus on this side because that's where most people can initially begin to explore foot correction, is on the flat foot side. And then, of course, this breaks down even further because there's forefoot supinatus and compensated, uncompensated, plantar flex first ray. It gets really, really complicated. But this initially starts to help people to understand how we can think about the foot. And then I always put meaning behind it. So versus a name, it's just more, what are some of the characteristics of a flatter foot? What does it mean dynamically? It's a little bit slower foot. It has a harder time generating power because it's just a little bit slower. It will overwork trying to stabilize. It gets tired easily. These are characteristics. Whereas the higher arched cavus foot is going to be really rigid, super stiff, doesn't unlock to absorb energy well. They're a little bit more predisposed to stress fractures and Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Usually they don't have the best ankle joint mobility. When our feet are tight, our hips are tight. So usually there's a lot of SI joint, low back stuff in a high arched foot. So this is how you can start to associate.
That's something a lot of people don't realize too. You may have a problem one place, but it's going to manifest itself in another joint, because if my ankle is not mobile and I'm asking to do things, it's going to affect the joints above or below.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now, you started delving into the different, the different issues with the different types of feet. Okay. So now if we're talking about the flat foot, which seems to be prevalent, right? Is that what you see mostly? They said, are there conditions of a flat foot that you can actually strengthen? Because you said some of it is due to muscle weakness. Now, can we do exercises to strengthen those feet?
Yes. So yes, you can. Yes. So, however, the visible change, this is what I would say, is the visible change of a flat foot from doing foot exercises should not be the goal. That's not what we're going after. Can you, quote unquote, rebuild an arch in a flat foot through exercises? That's a lot of quotes.
Yes.
In some, but again, that's not the goal. Okay. The flat foot that is primarily in the rear foot, where the heel, the calcaneus, is dropping.
Yes.
Sure, that is the one that research shows if you do 6 weeks of glute strengthening, you can actually externally rotate, invert that heel, lift that arch slightly, the same amount that a traditional orthotic would, which is about 2 to 3 degrees correction. That's incredible. That is where I would use that in my patients and say, okay, if yours is really the type that I'm observing through clinical experience is much more of a foot to core glute muscle weakness, 100% we're doing exercises. If you have more of a laxity, you may need to do some arch support.
Okay.
And though we don't just stop there, and exercises. So regardless of your foot type, I'm always giving exercises. But in some, I may also recommend the arch support, the custom orthotic, the over-the-counter, depends on the type, depending on the foot. So yeah, I think it depends. The glutes are a very common contributor to this. So that's where glute strengthening is really important for building strong feet because the glute influences that foot position.
That's funny because that posterior chain is so ignored, and your glutes get weak because we're sitting a lot. And
Yeah.
we don't activate the glutes, they don't activate the posterior chain. I can't tell you how many times I go into clinics because I do these certifications uh, that give continuing education credits not only to trainers but to DPTs as well as
Mhm.
chiropractors. And
Yep.
I go to clinics, some of them they really have not delved into the importance of the posterior chain. And you look at it and compared to or how it affects your foot health as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of research around delayed glute activation and ankle sprains, delayed glute activation and plantar fasciitis, delayed glute activation, and of course, knee pain, Achilles tendonitis, stress fractures, shin splints. All of that is connected by the timing and the strength of the glutes. And that's the other thing that oftentimes when I teach professionals is that I want them to also think about the timing of these muscles, not just, do I have strong glutes, but are your glutes activating fast enough at the right time during the gait cycle or during if you're running or if you're an athlete and you're doing change of direction, not only do you need strong glutes, you need very quick glutes.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. They have to fire at the right time. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, it can get quite complicated at certain
Mhm.
points. But now you were talking about the high foot arch. Now that one tends to
Mhm.
be due more to could be a configuration or even a spasm. Or can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so a high arch is cavus,
Hmm.
supinated, overly supinated. If we use the term cavus, which again just means high arch,
Arch.
one that I see a lot in my office is called an anterior cavus foot. This foot looks kind of like it's on a high heel, where the
Mhm.
front of the foot is sitting lower
Right.
than the rear foot.
Uh-huh.
And then when they go stand on the ground, it has an effect on the ankle, essentially. So they're plantar flexed on the midfoot. That one and all cavus feet are stiffer, more rigid, don't dance with the ground well and impact forces. Some of it's structural, meaning a cavus high arch is kind of your structure, right? It's like I'm
Sure.
tall or I'm short, you're tall.
Right.
Like that structure is part of just our development, right? So I explain this to a patient so that they understand that you're not going to completely get rid of your high arched foot. Could you
Mhm.
get it to relax a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure. From a neurological perspective, this is important. So this would be people who have a stroke. So oftentimes strokes affect one side, and
Mhm.
they will start to get the foot kind of pulls in
Yeah.
like that. And I'll do it this hand. It pulls up,
Mhm.
and that's just from the spasticity of the muscles in the
Yeah.
foot secondary to the injury. You'll
Mhm.
see it in MS. Of course, any sort of central nervous system, chronic neurological injury
Mhm.
slash movement disorder, you'll see it. CMT, Charcot-Marie-Tooth, you'll see it. Um, so yeah, so that's just kind of the nature of that. When I work with providers who do work with neuro rehab and neurological conditions, the goal is to slow that down, but you will never stop fully the progression of some of these neurological conditions. So it's just continuously reinforced relaxation. This is why I love vibration.
Mhm.
So vibration tools, vibration platforms. Vibration is really good at relaxing spasticity or hypertonicity. It just allows those muscle spindles to relax. And
Mhm.
I often recommend that for neurologically cavus feet.
Mhm. Interesting. How about massage for the feet? Do you recommend that? Should that be part of the protocol? So hey, it feels good, when you get a foot massage. But
Yes.
yeah, how beneficial is it?
Yeah. So daily foot recovery. That's just what I'm going to call it. So
Okay, cool.
are you getting a foot massage every day? I mean, one, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be
Or
awesome.
can you do some sort of foot massage, foot release every day? Honestly, this is where the Naboso neural ball is great because people can stand on our neural ball,
Okay.
massage their feet, if you want to call it that. It's doing a little bit more than just massage.
Mhm.
I actually just came from having foot reflexology done to my feet. Incredible. That is a method you could do.
Mhm.
I used to send my patients when I practiced in New York City, I would send them down to Chinatown and I would
Yeah.
say, go get your $40 foot massage for an hour. It's incredible because I just needed that level of soft tissue work for the patient. Knowing that New York City is just a walking city, I needed a way for my patients to get that consistency in the soft tissue work. Of course, if they can do it in their home every day, that's ideal.
Mhm.
So what could we do to just push reset every day on our feet?
I have a great recommendation. How about your 5 minute foot strengthening video that you have on with your Naboso ball?
There you go. I love that idea. Perfect plug, Bill.
Yeah, the things that we expect a lot from our feet. We really do. But how well do we treat them? I mean, my foot stretching and activation is part of my morning routine that I do.
Love it.
The first thing that I do, I don't know if you ever saw, I've been on Newsmax a few times, and they had me on last summer, and I was talking about this. So,
Yep.
you have a cat or a dog, right? Do you have one?
Dog.
Okay. What does a dog do when it gets
Yeah,
up from
yeah,
the
dog.
mat? What does a dog do when they get up from
Stretching.
the mat?
Stretching.
Stretch, right? How come we don't stretch when we get out of bed? Why? I'm not saying you don't, I'm sure you do, but most people don't, right? First thing
Right.
I do is I stretch, I move, I get my body jump started. Um, and our animals know more than we do. And your feet
Mhm.
should be part of this as well, because like I said, we expect a lot of them and we really kind of treat them like garbage, right? We beat the
Mhm.
daylights out of them. I mean, once in a while, a lot of women will get their pedicures and so forth, but we really don't treat our feet well. You shove them in shoes that they're not meant to be in, right? You pound on them on pavement and everything, and but what are you doing really to help your feet? So, what are some of the things that people can do on a daily basis
Mhm.
to help their feet? Your 5 minute foot strengthening, and what else?
Yep. 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 So that I was just going to show our Ignite so people can see it. So
Yeah.
the little texture on it. So this is our Ignite one, which is a little bit more stimulating than the other one. But this is to stand on, and it splits into two domes,
Yeah,
to
okay, because
stand on
I
the
didn't know if
normal
it did. The other
dome.
one does. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it splits into two pieces. So if you stand on the domes, I tell people to do this when they brush their teeth. And it's for the reason that you're saying is if we don't do something first thing in the morning to our feet, we just blur right into our day and we're texting and we're whatever you're just jumping into work and phone calls and emails. And we're not giving that little connection to the body, to gravity, to our nervous system, to the brain, the whole thing. So to brush your teeth and stand on the two domes at
I
the same
like that.
time, I know already people are getting 2 minutes in that. I have actually a series that's on YouTube where I have them stand on the two domes while brushing your teeth, takes 2 minutes, step off of the domes, and then you move through your foot and you're essentially inverting and
Yep.
everting. Then you find your tripod, spread your toes. Then we do an exercise that I call forward lean, and you sway forward and back, and you do
Mhm.
that 5 times. And that's actually activating these postural fascial
Mhm.
slings that are how we stand in gravity. Then we grip the ground while exhaling, and we do that 5 times because when you exhale, your feet and your diaphragm essentially sequence with each other. So we do that. Then
Mhm.
we do a little 10-second balance on both sides, do that 3 times, and then take the same ball that was split, put it together, put it between your heels, and do 10 calf raises with the ball between your heel. That's my little series. essentially how to get your body ready, your feet and body ready for your day. And it sounds longer when I'm saying it. It takes 5 minutes.
Takes 5 minutes.
to do.
I know. It's not long at all. Not
Yeah.
long at all. What about
Yeah.
do you like where you use the towel to grab with your toes? I found that helped me when I was starting jujitsu and I wanted to get my toes a little.
Yeah.
I mean, I did
So
it
the
8 years
reason
ago.
why, yeah. The reason why I don't recommend that, and it's not an exercise that like no one's going to die from it, right? So if people are doing something like
How
they're
did they
fine,
die? Well,
right?
they were gripping a
They're-
towel with their toes, and all of a sudden they just dropped dead. It was crazy.
I know it was awful. It was awful. But the reason why I don't do it
Mhm.
is because I look at the foot doing 3 functions, and I go back to gait. Is our foot evolved or was given to us
Mhm.
for the purpose of movement, and the purpose of movement is really built around locomotion,
Mhm.
which is bipedalism or walking. So if we look at walking and we look at the foot and we look at the requirements of our foot during a gait cycle, it does 3 things. 1, it allows us to stand on one leg,
Mhm.
balance. 2, which is our tripod and our toes. So tripod and toes is how we balance. 2, it is designed to absorb energy, impact. And the way that it absorbs impact is it contracts isometrically. So that is short foot, or when we push our toes into the ground, we are essentially creating an isometric contraction of our foot. That's the second. Third is that it allows us to push off and take a step, which is called a rigid lever. So that's that high heel position when you do a calf raise and you're in that position, that's called a rigid lever. That is how you propulse or you take a step. So if we think of those 3 functions, every exercise that I recommend to my patients is built around those 3 functions. Of course, those are integrated functions, your core is involved in it, your diaphragm, all of this, but that's what I think about, which is why I personally don't recommend doing what they call toe yoga. Can you lift your big toe? Can you lift your little toe? To me, it doesn't transfer to the 3 requirements for bipedalism. This is just my own philosophy. It doesn't mean you can't do toe yoga. Do toe yoga if you want.
Today's companies don't need another motivational talk that sounds good in the room and disappears by Monday. They need immediately executable takeaways, practical, life-improving skills employees can use right away to reduce stress, move better, and perform better at work and at home. That's where I come in. My name is Phil Ross. As a respected wellness, fitness, and injury prevention expert, my offerings bring a powerful corporate wellness approach built around 3 core solutions: the Body Bell Method, the Get Off Your Back program with the Back Better Bar, and Survival Strong. These are proven methods. Together, they help support better workplace well-being, improved work-life balance, and increased productivity by giving teams tools they can actually apply. This is not just inspiration, it's wellness people can use.
I don't do toe yoga. So if someone asks me, can you pick up your toes and your little one's individual? No, I suck at it because I don't do it.
Yes, I started doing a thing where I drop the big toe and raise all the other ones, and then I reverse it. Yeah. So
yeah. To me, that is a mind, body skill. So if you are trying to build the awareness, I just want this client or this individual to be focused, hyper-focused on their feet. So they just think about their feet more and they feel their feet more. Great. Then I love that. That I get. For me personally, I think about feet every other second. So I do not need to be thinking about my feet anymore.
So you can say you do have a foot fetish, basically.
Yeah, a functional foot fetish. I would say functional foot fetish.
Functional foot fetish. I like that. Well, you have some incredible stuff, and we do have to take care of our feet. For so many different reasons: your balance, posture, being able to move, right? So how can people get in touch with you and get all of your information? I know you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 blah. But I'll put all those links in the body of the text. But if you just
Okay.
want to give that information out right now in case people are driving around listening.
Sure. Yeah. So my Instagram is Dr. Emily DPM. So it's my Instagram. Very educational. I do primarily videos to teach people about their feet and functional and regenerative podiatry. My podiatry website, because I do see patients all around the world. I see most
Yes.
of my patients virtually. So just if people are curious to get a different perspective on their foot function, or maybe they have chronic foot pain or a chronic foot issue, it's my name, or it is thefunctionalfootdoc.com. So I made it easier for people. And then the Naboso products, Naboso is Naboso, Naboso. It's naboso.com, or it is Naboso_technology on Instagram.
Mhm.
I have 2 books that I've written. They're on Amazon. Barefoot Strong is my first one. Sensory Sapiens is my second. And then hopefully I have a third coming out soon. Probably
Nice.
not soon. Sorry. That'll be a couple of years. That's a whole project. Sorry, disregard. That'll be a couple of years. Yeah, and then I have hundreds of videos on YouTube.
Yes.
So my YouTube channel started over a decade ago, kind of when we were initially meeting in the career, and a lot of them are educational, a lot of them are exercise based. I try to go into different foot conditions and really help people understand their feet from a functional perspective, from a non-traditional, the only answers orthotics and surgery and supportive shoes,
Yeah.
just to help patients understand there's a lot more that's out there.
Fantastic. This is great. Emily, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have
Thank
you.
you.
And, I'll do our editing and then we'll have this out. So,
Sounds
so
amazing. Thank you.
thank you very much and strength and honor.